What it is, you guys, it is your girl Cadillac. Yes, I'm Cadillac Dixon. I'm the Drama Life Prison Wife. I'm the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice. Hoping, girl, to see justice before it all fades to black. Yes, it's your girl Cadillac. Anyways, I'm coming through today on Tuesday the 21st, just about to head out and run out to work. I was trying to record a video, the continuation of the grave mistakes we make when we decide to take a conviction at face value. Make sure to check out the first and little second part of that series. I will also add that to the playlist of the wrongfully convicted. It is Marcello Jackson, wrongfully convicted Florida man. But at the top, you're going to find all of the videos in this series about C murder. So it started out with it starts out with C murder's case, then leads into Marcello's, and then leads into very bottom Tory Lanez, his dad and him are maintaining that he was wrongfully convicted. Okay, so jumping right back into it. Okay, I want to take you through the steps of how a case can be, like, most cases are not completed the way they should be. And then I had a thought last night, like, in the legal system, they really don't follow the rules that they should. There's a lot of rules. It's a lot of laws you have to abide by. You can't really, like, violate anybody's rights. You have to go by different statutes and stuff like that. So if they did go through all the steps necessary, and the reason why all those steps are necessary, because you're dealing with something that is very, like, detrimental. You could be ending someone's life, like, honestly, with a wrongful conviction. Remember that movie, Brian Stevenson, like, where he was exonerating people that were on the roll. Like, so that means if he was finding wrongfully convicted people on the roll, some he may not have found before, they met their demise wrongfully. Like, that's crazy. That back in the day, I don't remember what year it is, but it's been over 10 years, I think, as of last year. Troy Davis was a case here in Florida where it was all types of evidence coming up that they didn't do this right, they didn't do that right. And I mean, they stalled a little bit, but they proceeded through with and we had Tom Joyner. There was a lot of people marching, to save his life, but he's gone. But the hope in that situation is that his life did open up basically eyes to know that the system is not really working the way it's supposed to be. Unfortunately, like I said, I work at a theme park. What if it was a roller coaster and 15 patrons got on, and every now and then maybe only 10 come back? We would be marching, we would be demanding that they shut that roller coaster down and not another person goes on it until it is properly working. But in the justice system, it's eating people alive every day, and we're not demanding nothing. They're like, oh, just keep it moving. Everything's all right over here. We're keeping you safe. And that bull crap. But we need to look at it. It's a lot going on in that system. So back to I was on the part where I was talking about the police and how they tainted my husband's case right from the start. Number one, they're the one that write up the charges, the initial charges that this person will be charged with. I do have the initial report from that the police had wrote that night. And from this one act of my husband, walking from a convenience store on the corner, his cousin driving past, and his cousin saying, "Hey man, you want to ride?" His cousin picks him up. He got two patrons in the car. Well, two people. Why do I keep saying patrons? Oh, wait. Hold on. They were patrons. If you know what they were in the car for. Later, it's found out that they drove with the cousin from the main street over where the club was. The cousin was taking them to go get right and then go back to the car. I mean, not the car, go back to the club and have fun because they had this big dance that was happening that night. So they wanted to get in a, what do you even call that? Like in that mode. I don't know the terms of today or whatever, but they was trying to get right before, having their little fun or whatever. Okay, so on the street from coming to go to, I guess, the cousin's house in the neighborhood, he was, or wherever they was going, I don't know, but it was like a little neighborhood that was close to the club. So they actually live really close to this club. And then Marcello was walking from a convenience store on the corner. Okay, Marcello was walking on his way back. He went in, he bought whatever he wanted, and he was walking back to his house, which was just a couple of blocks. His cuz drive by and said, "Hey, cuz, you want to ride?" And Marcello's like, "Yeah, okay." So Marcello jumps in the car. The cousin has two people in the car. He jumps in the car, and by Marcello getting picked up so close to the stop sign, the cousin was like really like stopped like basically by the stop sign. Like he didn't really turn down the street. He kind of pulled over to the street just to pick Marcello up and then made like a little curve to the left to get out from that street and then go on to the street that they were already driving on. It would be easy if I could illustrate it, but you possibly can understand what I'm saying. Okay, so by doing that, he ran that stop sign. And as soon as he ran that stop sign, the police patrolled this neighborhood. And automatically it was like, whoop, whoop, whoop. The police tried to pull the car over. And instead of the cousin pulling the car over, the cousin floors it. It leaves the cops on a high-speed chase. Marcello said he looked over to his cousin like, "What the F are you doing? Like, stop this darn car. What are you doing?" Like, the police just gets behind it, and you, instead of pulling over, the natural thing that you're going to think your driver that you just got in the car with is going to do is pull over. You're not thinking they're going to go on a high-speed chase. So they go on a little high-speed chase through the neighborhood. The cousin stops the car in a dead end, jumps out the car and ran. And they lie, but they say he was never caught, not caught by dogs, not caught by the police that were chasing them, not caught by the helicopters, not caught by anything. That man was caught. Ain't no way. What type of track star is he that he can avoid all of that? But anyways, they say he was not caught. And Marcello, when the car stopped, Marcello got out the car. The other two guys got out the car. Everybody put their hands up. The two guys said, "Hey, we were robbed." And that's how it happened. And Marcello, they said when Marcello was called, Marcello walked up to them and he said he just watched his cousin run off. And I always ask Marcello, like, what the hell didn't you run off to? Like, why didn't you run? You would have got away if clearly your cousin got away. And he was like, if I had a run, they would have thought I had something to do with this. I don't know what the heck happened. I just got in the freaking car. And he said he thought that he was going to explain that to the officer. There was no words. The officer pulled their weapon on him, demanded he get on the ground, and there he sat, went off to prison. Well, from there to jail, to trial, to prison. So they had to make up all these charges. So the police made up a slew of charges because the guy said, oh, we were robbed. Okay, so they took their sworn affidavits. They wrote down something completely different. The police read it, searched Marcello. Marcello did not have the amount that these two say that he took from them. It didn't line up. So the police gave back those affidavits to those people and said, you need to change it to what I'm telling you to change it to, because that's what he has on him. They change it, initial it. One of them puts a little smiley face. This comes up in court later. The judge does say you cannot charge him with robbery because the money does not align. So the state lawyer was like, but he tried to rob him. He tried. So they allowed it to be picked back up as attempted robbery. So there's not just one charge that the police had wrote up that day. He found whatever charge he could, whatever he can charge him with. In that case, it ended up being 6 total that the initial police taking the officer taking the like writing up the case, like writing up what happened, the initial report. He came out with 6 charges from that one little ride that Marcello took with his cousin. Okay, so after that, the police again, their word is just taken as bond. So Marcello, the car that Marcello's cousin was driving, was being chased by a cop car with 2 officers in there. Okay. They radioed and they said another lady cop had drove around. Like, you know how I said that the car was stopped in a dead-end cul-de-sac? Okay, when they called on the radio, hey, we're chasing suspects or whatever, the lady cop said she was in the area and she pulled her street down to the outside of the cul-de-sac. So the dead end is actually not a dead end where you see nothing. It actually is a street going across it, but you cannot drive across it. You can walk across it, you can run across it, anything in that manner, but you cannot drive any further. So the car had to stop there. The police comes and blocks off the car on the other side, but that car couldn't go nowhere unless he was going to try to drive across them railroad tracks. I don't know how that would have worked out. But other than that, that car couldn't go. But she came around and cut them off. That's the one that demanded Marcello get on the ground, and Marcello just walked straight up to her. Later, so that's 3 officers. They all had different stories about the account that night. And they all conflicted with one another. And do remember that that first cop that wrote up that initial report, he is also accused in another case with 4 other cops of over outing somebody. Another case that they wrote up them charges, they gave them similar charges to Marcello. I'm like, is those the only charges this man knew? But it's very similar charges to Marcello. And then they got the guy, they piled him to get him on the ground, and they should have made the arrest then. But instead, they piled him 50 more times. And he's gone. He should have been arrested, but yet it was over. And then when they were asked why, they all had different stories again. That same officer that arrested Marcello, him and 4 others, they all had different stories on why this happened. So this as well, in Marcello's case, all 3 officers had a different story. Now, y'all remember how I said that driver got away? Yeah, quote unquote got away. He didn't get away. But they had to protect that driver. Now, the reason and why they decided to protect that driver, which I find out later, is because I actually have the papers. That driver, it is said that He was their previous client. The public defender's office, he was their previous client. And the public defender's office was also at that time representing Marcello. They dropped Marcello because he said, I cannot defend both sides of the case. We have information that Marcello may testify against our client, which was the driver, and he's already been our client. He already had a record, he already had a long record before this incident, with that landing Marcello in prison forever, and he has a long record after in several other states of the same similar charges, which is crazy. So just looking at that, who you think really is the culprit in this? Do you think the passenger that just freaking got a darn ride, or do you think this driver that has a laundry list or of charges, that knows the system, that knows, hey, when the hot potato jumps in my lap, throw it off on, I'm gonna throw it on my cousin? Like, what? Your cousin? And so anybody could be thrown up under this bus. And I'm finna run. I'm finna floor it. I'm getting up out of here. I wish the many days he had just took his charges, because for his record to be that long, evidently he only gets slaps on the wrist. He would have got a slap on the wrist, and it could have saved Marcello the last 20-something years of his life. But anyways, now they have to protect that driver, because basically that driver is testifying, giving information against Marcello Jackson. That's why they had to lie and said that that driver was missing, ran and got away. So I'm going to get into more, because there's more of where I'm about to be late for work, girl. But there's more about how that instance, and by the police giving their testimonies that conflicted with one another, but it's the word from the police, it has to be right, how it as well messed up that case from the beginning. You already messed the case up from the beginning, and then you don't investigate because we really don't want to conflict what our officers already said, because any investigation would have proved that Marcello had nothing to do with this. But that's why they didn't want to investigate, because we don't want to come with anything that's going to conflict with our officers. We have to back them at all costs, even when they're wrong. Even when they're wrong, we have to back them. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. I can't wait till I can fill in all these blanks. I have to break it down, because it's like I want to tell you some things now, but if I tell you now, then it's gonna be too overwhelming, and I got to give it to you piece by piece, because it is a lot. All right, but right now we're still working on the grave mistakes you make when you take a conviction at face value, and we're dealing with the things that the police do not do right off rip. And the officers, as they arrest somebody, they have to follow every single rule. If they don't, a wrongful conviction is very easy to make.